Hey there everyone, this is Tsumugi, and welcome back to my TYRANID guide, and today we're talking about the stratagems. In this video, we'll explore topics such as how and when to use each stratagems, as well as what unit or specific setup that can benefit the most from them. I'll separate stratagem into two groups, essential and situational. Essential stratagems are those that are used very often and are very powerful for their cost. Situational stratagem, on the other hand, are somewhat optional but can be effective in more specific scenarios. As for highly specific stratagems, I will save it for my next video instead. So let's get started with the essential stratagems. Number 1. Feed your tendrils. After Lictor, Gene Stealer, Toxic Ring, or Venom Throat that kills character in fight phase, it restores D3 CP. This is truly an auto-use stratagem. You're basically getting D3 command point with no risk whatsoever. Worst case scenario, the point you spend to activate this stratagem is refunded. Usually, this is used for Gene Stealers, as they are more common to be used in the front line and have better chance to actually kill characters. However, don't rely on this stratagem to get your CP back though, unless you're fighting IG player who brings a lot of 50-point HQ and leave them out in the open, which needless to say is very unlikely. A good way to estimate how much CP you'll be getting back is ask how many HQ your opponent brings that day. If you know your opponent brings a lot of characters that day, and you can easily kill them, you can be less reserved on spending your command point early on in the game. So you will actually have more room to spend because you know you'll be getting them back. But if not, just spend it normally. Spend it as if they're not coming back. Number 2. Metabolic Overdrive. After moving, you can move and advance the unit again, but each one of D6 rolls per model, they take 1 mortal wound. But you might hear the mortal wound and you'll be scared a little, but don't be afraid of mortal wound whatsoever. After all, getting a 1, it's only 16% chance. The benefit of having your Gene Stealers or Hormigons that move with that speed is simply terrifying, and obviously outweigh the risk. Do this on turn 1, dash towards the enemy deployment zone and find the closest line of sight cover you can get, and then go for the charge at turn 2. Alternatively, you may use this on monstrous creature as well, because they have multiple wounds, such as Carnifex or Malceptor, since they don't really care if they take 1 wound or not, and it's only 1 model anyway, so a single roll of a 1 on a d6 is actually pretty slim. Do remember that advancing is entirely optional here. Say, you want to use this on a quad Devour Carnifex, you can just use this stratagem and move it twice without advancing, which will give you 40-inch movement, and you can still shoot your Devourer at full BS. Special note for Malceptor, although they are a sort of controversial unit, but with this stratagem they can pull something interesting off. Their Psychic Overload will cause mortal wound up to 6 enemy units within 6 inches of them. With this stratagem, which allows Malceptor to move at the greater speed, you are looking at 20-inch movement on average. If that's not fast enough for you, slap them on Kraken High Fleet and roll 3d6 on advancing and pick the highest for result. Number 3. Single-minded Annihilation. An infantry can shoot again at the end of shooting phase. TYRANID may not have the best unit roster, we have some clunky unit, but we sure as hell get the most OP stratagems, and this is one of them. This stratagem is usually used with full squad of Hive Guards, which allow them to dish out 24 shot of Strength 8 AP-2, damage D3 per turn. This is also the reason why I recommended new players to have at least 6 Hive Guards in my previous video, because the effect of this stratagem is so great, if you're not using it, you have been missing out. Although this strategy is primarily used with Hive Guards, do note that Barrowforce and Termagon Bomb are also a good candidate for it. However, do note that this stratagem is used at the end of a shooting phase, not during, so you can't just shoot twice with your Hive Guard first and shoot your other unit. No, you can't. You have to shoot everything. You have to complete shooting phase, then you activate for the second round of shooting. Number 4. Pathogenic Slime. A monster increased damage by 1 with shooting attack. This works best with weapon that contains a lot of shots. For instance, Hive Tyrant with Quad Devourer. 24 shot of Strength 6 AP nothing, it's already pretty good. But if you pop this stratagem, it turns damage 1 to damage 2, which is really deadly when firing models with multiple wounds. If you pop this stratagem, this will also work very well for Exocrine. Normally, Exocrine's Bioplasmic Cannon is 12 shot, Strength 7, AP 3, and damage 2, which is more suitable for a biker or Marine equivalent or Terminator equivalent hunting. But if you apply the stratagem, it bumps the damage from 2 to a 3, which can be effective against light tanks or like walker such as dreadnoughts. As for Terran effects with Rupture Cannon, this stratagem may not stand out as much, because Terran effects only shoot 6 shots per turn with the Rupture Cannon, and if you pop this stratagem, you're only looking at like maybe 2 to 3 extra wound. So it's a bit situational, like on Terran effects. If you really want a tank die, then yes, you might as well. But like otherwise, spend this like I said, Hive Tyrants or Axle Crane. That would be much better. Number 5, we have the Overrun. After a unit destroy an enemy unit in fight phase, but they are not within 3 inches of any enemy models, they can move and advance, but cannot move within 1 inch of an enemy. This stratagem is the main reason why most players don't deploy their scout unit in midfield, because if they do, your Gene Stealer can charge them, kill them, and then get a free movement with this strategy. This is why you want to have your Gene Stealer in the front line, so if enemy dare to put something in the midfield, they will gotta fucking eat it, because you can just use Overrun. It's only 1 command point anyway, so it's almost like every time you kill enemy unit, remember to pop this. There's almost no reason to pop this, unless you're already, within 3 inches of the other enemy model, then you can't do this. Otherwise, if you can't use it, use it. Alright, so that covers all the essential stratagems. Let's move on to the situational ones. Number 1, Caustic Blood. Use at the start of a fight phase. Select one of your unit. When they lose a model, roll d6. On the 6, enemy that attack them take 1 mortal wound. This is best used on swarm unit like Gaunts with Gene Stealers. Imagine having like 30 Gaunts and they just finished their Termagon bomb combo, and your opponent trying to shut them down with assaulting. Just pop the stratagem and watch them cry. 30 Termagon, and there's bound to be some 6s that's gonna roll by you. And this works exceptionally well like heavy assault units such as Terminator, Imperial Knights, or Vanguard Veterans, because they are elite assault unit. They have low model count, and if you pop this stratagem, chances are you're gonna kill them. You're gonna bypass their high toughness or their insane invulnerable save because it's mortal wound. But it's only 1 CP anyway, so it's like you might have to think about it. 1 CP can be spent somewhere else. Do remember, like normally you only get like 12 to 15 CP in 2,000 point game, so think about using this. This is a bit, it's a bit itchy. It's not like the best thing, but like if you really want to like fight back with your guns, this is one way to do it. Just pop this and cause mortal wounds on the 6. Number 2, Rapid Regeneration. At end of movement phase, select a unit, gains D3 wounds. This strategy is mostly used as a last resort when you desperately need that extra wounds in order to get better damage table or keep something important alive, such as your Warlord. Otherwise, spending your CP on other offensive stratagem is probably better, because this command point is, this stratagem, it's good to keep something alive, but like it's 2 command point, it's 2 command point, D3 wounds, it's kinda it's not that great, but if you want something to stay alive, this is how you do it. You use Rapid Regeneration. Number 3, we have Implant attacks. After a unit fought, roll a d6 for each non-vehicle enemy model they failed to kill. On a 2+, they take a mortal wound. Now, this might look very good on paper, that you think, oh my god, it costs like mortal wound on 2+, so it's basically guaranteed, well, almost guaranteed mortal wound, right? So will that cost tons of mortal wound? Actually, no, it will not. It will most likely only kill 1 model unless you're multi-charged. This is because with wound allocating rule, your opponent can't spread the wound across the model anyway. He has to allocate wound on model that is already wounded. So in theory, you'll probably cost like 1 mortal wound with this strategy. Unless, like I said, unless you're multi-charged. So yeah. Number 4, we have the Grizzly Fest. Use in morale phase. Select a Ripper Swarm or House Specs. Enemy gets -1 leadership as long as they're within 6 inches of them. Since most army will include Ripper Swarm, like most Tyranid setup will always include Ripper Swarm, because first they're cheap, they're only 33 point, and they're very good to use with Chronos specific stratagem, which I'll talk about in my next video, that can fuck with Psychers. So pretty much all Tyranid lists will get some sort of like Ripper Swarm, so you'll probably use this stratagem more often than you think. You can either deep strike them or have them move along with your main melee force. The -1 to leadership can make one extra model run away, which sometimes it can make and break a battle. And finally, number 5, we have Voracious Appetite. Used in the fight phase, when a monster or character is attacking, reroll all failed wounds. Now, have you ever tried to kill a tank with your Carnifex and you land all your Crushing Claw because you brought all 1/9, and when you're trying to roll a wound, you roll like 1 and 2, you get all pissed off because, you know, we all been there. Use this stratagem to make sure you kill that tank this turn. This also works pretty well on Brute Lord and Hive Tyrant with Rending Claw, because you can translate all your failed wound roll into a possible 6 for rending. So that's it. That concludes all the essential and situational stratagems in the TYRANID Codex. Now, obviously, there are tons of other strategies I didn't cover. They are either 1, they are Hive Fleet specific, which I'll talk about in my next video. Or 2, they are just too weak, or too general. Like, as in general, I'm talking about like extra relic, like the bounty of the Hive Fleet or whatever it's called. That, you know, that's kind of generic. That kind of explained themselves already, so I don't want to talk about it. And the other stuff, it's just a bit too weak. You know, like the Zoanthrope thing, like the Lictor thing. I think it's not as competitive at the moment. If it becomes more competitive, or like some people use it on like a tournament and they found out the strategy is actually good, I will include them back to this video in near future. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye bye.